I see like these faint, lights creeping up on us, and I'm going as fast as I can, and we're in like maybe Utah, I think, at this point on like I-80.
So this is the point where you start hearing like wolf howls in the background and like tumbleweed score across, like
exactly.
Welcome back.
That was terrible. What's going on, Cabretti?
Well, just living
That
life.
was so stupid. I don't know what I was doing right there.
No, you were like gurgling. Anybody that listens to this, shame on Ty. Shame him.
I'm sorry. It's been a weird morning. I went to go get my second shot, the second Moderna shot for the vaccine. I'm fully vaccinated now.
Oh, so that's what you're going to blame that
I am a
for?
vaccine.
That sound is a vaccine symptom?
Yes. No. No, it's okay. So I show up. 8:10 a.m. is my appointment. And for my first shot, 8:10, I was done by like 8:13. We just motored through. Product placement.
Man, I'm trying real hard.
I show up. Okay, so hang on. So I show up for my appointment today, and I park in the same parking lot that I did last time, which is probably like a quarter mile away. I mean, it's like 2 blocks down. And the line for the vaccine is like at the parking lot. I'm like, oh, that's cool. They like to the parking lot because they knew that's where everybody was going, and it's going to run a little bit smoother. Like, that's perfect. And I get to the line, and then I look down the alley of where it's going. No, the entrance to the vaccine place is still a quarter mile down the road. The line is so long that it is in this parking lot. And there's somebody with a bullhorn going, "We're so sorry for the delay. We have not yet received the vaccine for all of the appointments today. We will let you know as soon as we receive it." So they don't have the vaccine yet. I mean, I'm probably in a line of 400 to 500 people. Like, really, that many. It's like 4 hours worth of appointments that are here. So I stood there in line, just all by my lonesome, freezing at 8 a.m. all morning. Finally got in and got my shot, and it took like 10 seconds. But I'm sitting here gargling because I'm waiting for the inevitable downfall of my health for the next 24 hours. And while I'm a miserable goat until I'm back to normal and I can go back and live my life.
Yeah, that's no bueno have people wait that long. But I guess they all had their first shot though, right? It was all like second shot appointments.
No, that's why it's taking forever right now, because like first and second and tests all go to the same place. Oh. So California's actually moving really quickly with the vaccines. I mean, I think it's like next week, actually, everybody 16 and up, just period, everybody is a get it. So we're actually scheduled to open up fully in June, which is crazy. So a semblance of real life is slowly starting to come back.
Let us tour again.
Let us tour again. Obviously, you can see Cabretti is back in his own studio.
Yep.
2 weeks ago, he was in my room, sleeping on my floor with Josh. We were in an undisclosed location in Sacramento with the guy we're about to interview, actually, for a little while, working on stuff related to music that we can't tell you about.
Yeah, it was great to meet this guy, and I'm going to get some very cool things on the podcast today from him. So.
The man has made one of my favorite records of the year. That is for sure. Let's go ahead and get to this interview. First, Cabretti, where can they find us?
Find the podcast at Tour Stories Pod and find Sink In at Sink In Band. Make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can stay up to date with our actual video podcasts. But if you're not interested in that, be sure to like and subscribe and write reviews anywhere that you get your podcast. Do you like that?
Please subscribe even if you hate the podcast, just subscribe so it helps us, so people who don't hate it can find out about the podcast. That's our goal here.
And
I even leave a review and put 5 stars, but then say I hate it. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, me too.
All right, let's get to our interview. On the podcast today, this man is on the strings and the silky vocals in a band called Kingdom of Giants. They put out a new record in the past year on Sharptone Records. It's probably one of my favorite albums in a long time. Jonny Reeves, what's happening, buddy? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Dude, I want to jump right into this record first before we talk about anything related to tour.
Sure.
How the heck did you guys create a tour album in 2021 that sounds so sonically just like all encompassing? What I mean by that is, like, I listened to that album and it sounds like an orchestral director took a year and learned heavy music and just made it happen. How did you guys put that together?
Shoot, man. I mean, honestly, I have to give our producer a lot of credit, Matt Thomas at Ashtone Audio. He really just kind of like tied everything together like so seamlessly for us. And like, yeah, you're totally right. We had like this idea of going into it like kind of a movie soundtrack kind of thing. Like we had seen Blade Runner 2049 back on tour like a couple years before writing the album, and we were like, yo, this soundtrack is sick. And so yeah, we just try to like go at it like a movie soundtrack. And then like we told our producer that, like, I think not even at first, but just like midway through, and he's like, oh, okay, I see what you're trying to do here. And then he just like downloaded a bunch of new sounds like for Contact, and like got all these like cool synthwave packs going. And yeah, next thing you know, the album was like really taking shape how we wanted it.
Nice. Do you guys, when you did the record, did you actually have any like visuals in mind, kind of like a movie? Like, did you have a movie playing in your head to certain songs?
I think our guitar player Max did, and like he's kind of a quieter guy, so like he didn't totally like open up about like his whole vision. He'll just start kind of putting pieces together and like sending it to our group chat, and like totally like, you know, Blade Runner 2049, like Cyberpunk was like, you know, still kind of like being made. Wasn't out yet, but he was watching a lot of stuff that was being released as it was being made, so that was getting him excited. Different stuff like that. Definitely like Total Recall was kind of a feel like with Colin Farrell, the newer one. So yeah, he's a huge movie guy. He'll just watch movies all day while he works and shit. And so I think that was like really how it took shape for him. And then he just started sending us stuff, and like he like the album artwork was even kind of meant to look like a movie poster and everything, you know. So we were like, yo, this is tight, let's do it, you know. So
nice.
That's, he had
that's really totally interesting that you mentioned
that way, but which is yeah.
Do you know what the other idea was?
He was like going down this funny like Beach Boys like phase, and like he wanted to do artwork like the Beach Boys had like these old like model cars, you know, just like on the front of the cover. It was interesting, but it was different, you know. And I was just like, yeah, maybe, you know. And then ultimately took a totally different direction, you know. So, but he's totally like the creative arts type guy in the band. He like does a lot of t-shirt designs for us, as well as the album artwork. That's actually a picture of our drummer's eye, and then they just like totally like, you know, fucked with it, made it what it is.
So what you're saying is Kingdom of Giants at one point was going to be like surf metal core?
Yeah, exactly. You can believe it. We're gonna be like just surf slam.
Your album cover was
heavy switchfoot,
shirtless.
Yeah, I mean, a few of us can pull it off, not myself. I got too many dad bods going on, you know.
Same. We understand that one completely. We're a dad bod band in full. It's all right. But okay, so I want to first talk about how you got into the touring world, because I know you have a history with some prior bands and doing some touring there. And so tell us how you got involved in your early years and how you ended up with Kingdom of Giants.
Yeah, I've been doing this a long time. I mean, a lot of us have, I feel like, but yeah, I started like super young. I was like 10 when I first started playing my like first shows ever. In just like a kind of like Chevelle wannabe, like, alt core band, and it was just me and my brothers, and like my dad was our manager. He like bought a van and trailer and he started driving us around, like playing different churches and like, coffee shop venues, teen centers. Yeah, dude, just like the classic like dad stuff, like, and like I don't care if he was living vicariously through us at all. It was a blast, like so. But yeah, he just like got us in a van and like got us some instruments, and like we just started going for it. And we were like kind of a musical family just from the start, I guess, like we had that in us or whatever, because whether we play an instrument, my like sisters, they sing, stuff like that. So like it just kind of like started from a young age with that. And then yeah, like the band thing just made sense like as we got a little bit older. And so then we started like playing for friends at first, and then worked up the courage to like play a show. And then my dad took an interest in it, and that's when things really started happening. But did that for like 5 years, 6 years or something. And then like it slowly just kind of stopped and like got busy with other crap going on. And I started making just like neighborhood bands from like all different like groups of friends, like around where I was living at the time. I'd have like a punk band with these guys over here, and then I had like a deathcore band with a couple buddies over here, and like, so I was real spread out for a long time. Didn't really have any aspirations of like touring or anything necessarily when I was still in high school. But towards like my senior year and everything, I joined a band that actually sounded pretty good. And like we were called Light in August, and they were just we didn't really like blow up or anything like that, but it was just we got like noticed here in the area, won a couple contests, battle of the bands, and like stuff like that, got some notoriety. And at that point then I was just like, maybe I could like do some touring, do some stuff like that. And so I joined my brother's band, and it was like a metalcore band. And because they wanted to tour, they bought a van and stuff like that. And so, but I actually never actually got to tour with that band before I ended up like giving up on the touring thing, and then moved to LA and started trying to like produce down there, because that's where my brother was living and producing down there. And so he was just like, you could try, producing down here or something. I was like, all right. So, and then like only lasted like 9 months down there in LA. I was 18. I think I had just graduated high school, and like really didn't find my path down there producing in LA. So then I came back, and then that's when like the band thing started back up. And right around that time, some homies of mine from like playing shows in the past and stuff around California, they were also really young kids. They were these two brothers, the Montes, Zach and Max. And I saw that they had made a new band, and it was called Reformers. And I was on Facebook, and I was just like scoping it out, and I was like, yo, this is sick. It was just like, just metalcore, but, like lyrics were faith-based, kind of like For Today. And at the time that was totally like what I was about. And the music was like just aggressive. Like Zach is an incredible guitar player, and the stuff he was writing was just like sick. So I ended up going to a church in Vacaville, like an hour away from Sacramento, at a show I saw that they were playing like a month after I saw the Facebook. And I totally was going to like go and try and like see what's good, like you guys need a member, an extra member.
Schmooze your way in.
Yeah,
That's great.
totally. I had that intent. And so I showed up, and my dad actually came with me. So, but
I'm bringing a manager with me too.
yeah, exactly. He's like, he's my guy. And he just liked shows too. So, and
That's
he wasn't
awesome.
doing anything. So I was like, yo, let's roll to Vacaville. So we did that, and I caught their set. And then my brother was actually playing the show too that night with his band. They headlined, if I'm not mistaken, and they had been doing some light touring. They were called Leaders. They were on Face Down Records for a stint, and so like caught the show that night, and then talked to some of the homies. Like, we hadn't seen each other in years, so it was kind of like that re-equating, getting to know each other again type thing. And just that night, like, they grabbed my number, and then like the vocalist, as they were heading home, was just like, yo, like, are you doing anything? Do you play? Or and I was just like, yeah, nah, like I play bass or guitar or whatever, and they needed a bass player. So I was just like, they're like, we really want to try you out. And so I was like, yeah, I'm down. And so I learned their music for a couple months, and then rolled out to a practice. And then they had like a little tour like lined up that the vocalists had booked, like from maybe like where they're from in San Jose to, I think, Seattle and back. And it was just like maybe 5-6 days long or something. And I think like 2 or 3 of the shows even like dropped or something, like on
They
the
always
tour.
do. The first one always does.
And that was my first like tour I got to do ever. And that was like how I just like got introduced back to the band thing, and like actually being able to like go out on the road in a van, with a couple of us, and play some like, sketchy venues and stuff, and just that DIY touring thing. I got my first taste of it on that tour. And honestly, I was just like, yeah, this is tight. And like, I'm going to keep doing this. And we did a couple more from there. And then actually like was able to get hooked up with this guy at a label, Media Scare Records at the time. And started doing some more like legitimate tours at that point, with some of their bands, and just people that had, been on the road longer and were playing a little bit better venues, not necessarily all the time, but just a few of them were a little bit more legit than what we were used to. And that's just really how I got started with it, with Reformers. Yeah.
Real quick, when you were in Los Angeles, were you, first off, where in LA were you? And then second, did you go down to be like an aggressive music producer, or what were you like? Why LA?
My brother was living there at the time, and he's like a successful producer down there. He's worked with a few different groups. Like his first group that he was able to like get noticed with was like Making the Band on MTV. They were a couple of producers that they worked with this group called Danity Kane. And it was just like this song called
No Big Deal.
Yeah, it was this song called Damaged. And yeah, just totally like not related to metal or bands at all. Like my older brother, 10 years older than me, was the first successful like musician in my family, with producing and just like stuff like that. And so he kind of set a pretty high bar, and I was just like, well, I don't know if I could totally measure up to that, but I could do the band thing, because like, I'm used to that. But like trying to do hip hop production and, producing, just wasn't my thing, I guess. Like at the time I was young too. So I really like, if I tried it now, might have a different result type thing moving down there. But at the time it just wasn't the right fit. I had to go through all the touring and all the just like terrible venues and sleeping on van freaking seats, and
Right. Had to get through the metalcore ringer. I know with, I forget exactly where Kingdom of Giants came into play when it came into your career, But I know before you guys hit the level that you are now, I know that you spent some time in the circuits of the real dingy metalcore rooms around the country. That's always something that we love in metalcore guys, is that everybody's got that experience of the $10 per diem per night for the entire band shows. So where did you at what? Yeah, of course. At what point did you join Kingdom of Giants, and where was the band at right as you took off?
So yeah, like Reformers kind of disbanded right around like 2013, and then I just came home and started working, and then around end of 2016. The guys in Kingdom of Giants hit me up because they remember bass player had just left, and they had always kind of offered me like doing some tours when he couldn't make some tours and stuff like that, and I'd always had to tell him no because I had just started a job or something, or I was in Reformers at the time for a cool minute, and I got to do a tour with them in Reformers, so that was pretty sick. But yeah, end of 2016, they hit me up and their bass player had left, and I just was at a job I didn't care about. So I was just like, you know what? All right, let's try it out. So hopped in a van with them. I didn't even have a bass at the time or anything. Like, they had all the equipment, and I just hopped in a van and learned their songs and just started like touring immediately with them. It was pretty sick.
You were always a guitarist first, right?
Yeah, first, and like well, I guess no. When it really comes down to it, like, I started on bass in that childhood band because my brother was on guitar, and like it didn't make sense to have like two guitarists at that time. Three pieces were in, so instead he threw me on bass. I was going to try to be on drums, but he's like, no, you got to be on bass. So I was just like, fine. And so I was on bass for
this sounds like the conversations in family bands.
Oh, and yeah.
Just everybody's interchangeable any given night.
Yeah, so, I mean, I can't say everybody totally gravitates towards bass, you just think it's just like there's less strings, you get to do more on the guitar, and then drums you get to smack shit. So it's just like
bass isn't first. I'm gonna jump back to your point there. So you just kind of like hopped in with them. They picked you up like during a tour and just kind of went with it? That's what you did?
Well, we had a tour lined up right when I joined, and the headliner band wasn't able to get their visa secure. They were from Australia, and so it ended up canceling 2 weeks before that, but we were able to pick something up like a month later, so it wasn't really a whole lot more wait time for me, just like a couple more weeks at work, and rehearsals a week before. So it flew by pretty quick. But yeah, our first tour technically dropped, and then second, I went out within probably like 4 or 5 months of being asked to join. So not totally right away.
Gotcha. Because we had a scenario, and I'm sure Ty knows where this story's going, where we decided to just pull in a drummer for a tour because we had a drummer just unexpectedly leave.
Oh, like no.
2 or 3 dates in. So I thought it was kind of a similar scenario where you just kind of like hopped in the van and learned while you were on the road and kind of went with it. And
yeah, I didn't mean to make it sound like that. That would have been much cooler, but yeah, no.
It wasn't for us.
When it came to our guy, when it came to our guy leaving, when Cabretti says like 2 or 3 days into the tour, he unexpectedly left. I mean, the unexpected part is me looking out a window and seeing a car pull up and this guy getting all of his stuff out of our trailer and loading it into a car. Like,
yeah,
there's not a conversation here at all. This is literally, I'm waking up, crust out of the eye, looking out the window, and somebody's leaving.
Yeah.
And like we play that night, right? Or the next night.
It was
don't go, please don't go, please don't.
Dang, so he gave you a day off. He gave you a full day.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that was nice. Yeah.
I know. Sweet guy. Literally don't think I've talked to him since. Like, he completely disappeared. But we found a guy Cabretti. Well, first off, Cabretti says he finds a guy. This is the era of Sync In where we're in a terrible terrible van that it's a rust bucket. The back bench is divided between the front section and the back by gear all the way up to the ceiling. So I'm in the back bench headed to this show. I've been told that somebody is going to figure out the drum stuff for the rest of this tour. I'm asleep in the back bench. I wake up at a stop and I look out front and there's an extra person in the van now. I'm like, okay, I don't know when this happened. And Cabretti's like, yeah, this is my buddy. He does this. He tours in this band. He's been working on our stuff for the past 10 hours. We're going to go and see what we can do and see if he can learn some things, and we'll do like a limited set based upon whatever he can learn. Like, it sounds like a nightmare, but okay.
Yeah, just
like we don't know if the we were clueless at this point. We did not realize that this was a really stupid idea. And he showed up and we play a limited set. I think we just played like 4 songs, and he plays everything 4 on the floor halftime, no matter what.
Oh dang!
So any pattern throughout the whole song, like that first EP, we kind of had like a blast beat song, right?
Okay.
And he comes up and he's ride and snare 4 on the floor for a blast beat pattern. So the guitars are just dan 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 dan, and he's the whole song. I mean, all he played is the whole night. We were on tour with American Arson, and Evan years later told us that might have been the most embarrassing night of his life, just watching us play 4 on the floor punk songs to a room of 6 people in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
And
so
the absolute worst song of that entire set, we had this song called Simi Valley that had this kind of like fun, like pop punk breakdown in it. That was a nice upbeat thing. And we get to that breakdown and it is half speed. So instead of like this,
not half time, he took half time as half speed and
no. He had 10 hours. What happened?
Come on, man.
So instead of like these nice little pauses where people could like shout or do something, they became giant pauses in the set. And it was just I think I look back and Evan just left at that point. He couldn't even bear to watch.
He did.
It's crazy how it's somehow worse that it was only 6 people in the room. You know, it's just like, things could have went over better if there was like 100 people in the room. But there's only 6. You know,
I could have leaned into it and just started like throwing stuff around and just started being ridiculous and just made a spectacle of it. But like I couldn't. With 6 people, I can't even make a spectacle of it. It's like a comedian bombing on stage, and they're telling you still got 10 minutes left, and you got to stay up there.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, Ty. I won't hire randos for one-off shows again.
Honestly,
Thank you. I appreciate
that story was going the other way. I thought you were going to say he like saved the tour and homie crushed it in 10 hours. Because that's, I mean, not technically happened for us before, but our drummer, Born of Osiris, asked us to come out on tour a couple years back, and their drummer Cameron, sorry, I'm all over the place today. Their drummer Cameron punched a wall and broke his hand on the tour, like 2 days, 3 days in, and there was some alcohol involved, obviously, and I think
there most certainly was.
He got upset about something and punched a wall a few times and busted his hand up pretty good. So our drummer Truman, like, they asked him if he could learn the set or at least a couple songs, and they could maybe have a few like of the techs sub in and a few of the other drummers from the other bands sub in, learn like a few songs each. But the other like techs and the other drummers like told them they didn't want to do it or they just couldn't. So like it was pretty much all on our drummer Truman, and he ended up learning like 8 songs in a matter of like, a 24-hour span from that night that it happened.
That's gnarly.
They're hitting him up at like midnight or like 2-3 a.m. after the show. after it's happened, and they're like, yo, we really need you to like learn some songs for us tomorrow. And then by the next morning, they're like, actually, we need you to learn like 8 to 10 songs. And then, so like he did it. And thankfully that guy like went to MI and like, studied drums and shit and like is on his shit.
Right.
So he was able to save the tour for them for at least
That's amazing.
like 6 dates. And then they wanted him to keep doing it, but there was a lot of pressure and shit, and just a busy schedule for him playing for us, and then jumping on and playing for them all at the same time. So he ended up telling them it'd probably be better if they flew somebody out that had a few days to like spend some time with the set, and just like maybe was already familiar with it or something. So they flew this guy Aaron out, and he ended up crushing the rest of the tour and stuff. But yeah, it was just crazy. I have to give it to my drummer Truman, because I've never seen anybody learn 8 to I think he learned like 8 or 9 songs in like a matter of freaking like 15 hours.
And I'm sure they weren't,
to be fair,
songs too. They were probably pretty complex drumming songs.
Oh, dude, yeah. And like, I mean, we all kind of grew up listening to Born of Osiris, but like, I definitely didn't know all their catalog like that, and like he didn't either. So like, there were a few songs that really threw him for a loop, but I think just his like winging it was good enough to even just like, he knows like the timing stuff and knows where to catch cues enough, I think, where he could wing it through a certain, I don't know, set of timing, and then he knows where it changes over, and just enough to get by.
To be fair, you asked, you thought our story was gonna be going a different direction. I think that guy thinks it did go a different direction. I don't think we ever really clarified that was a nightmare to him. So, to somebody out there, that was a lifelong memory about how he saved the tour for a terrible little punk rock band.
Yeah, that probably made the rest of his life, and I guess you guys can feel good about that.
There you go.
Unless he listens to
make
this
me feel better. I guarantee he doesn't.
One of the 12 people.
But it's funny that you have a story of your drummer, you looking out a window and your drummer's taking off, in a cab or whatever. Because before I was in KOG, I was homies with them, and I had stayed over at the band house one night, and they had a fill-in drummer from Texas, and that night, like at like 3-4 a.m., like everyone in the house awoke to just like crashing and like screaming and yelling and stuff. And like, we were like, yo, what's going on with this guy? None of us really knew him. He was just like a homie of a homie from Texas that, was a good drummer, but just dude had like a meltdown in the garage downstairs, the practice room, and like was just like throwing his cymbals and like drum set around at the walls and shit.
What?
And then like, I go back to sleep, and I wake up the next morning, and I like just like kind of like what you're saying, like I'm just like drinking coffee, I think, saying it, and like staring out the window down the driveway, and this guy's just got all of this stuff. He's headed to like his Uber to get back in the plane and fly back.
Calling it a day.
Calling it a day. So I'm clocking out, boys. He actually told them he was going to meet them in Virginia, where the tour started, and they're like, no, you're not. So they canceled it.
Why did every band have a story, multiple stories of somebody just calling it quits and just making a terrible, irrational decision to just book it home as fast as possible? We had a dude, we had a guy opening up for us who was just a solo artist, who just one night in Florida just said, I need to go home now, and took a Greyhound bus from Florida back to Pennsylvania. With like four connecting buses. It was like 48 hours. There's no direct Greyhound from Tampa to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah.
So this poor kid is on this poor kid is on a bus on a Greyhound for so long. He would have been better off just staying on the tour for an extra week until he got home. He only beat his home by like 2 days.
Oh,
To be fair to him, though, I will say that's when we still had the cage in the van. So the rear of the van was divided just for gear, and then the front was literally 4 seats, and we had, 6 people crammed up there trying to do a tour. So I think him being like a 6 foot guy was just tired of sleeping in this like cramped up space.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, we had in Reformers a van similar to that. We called it the Turd. It was a brown Ford van, dude. And it only had 1 bench in it, and then like the rest, just the first bench, and then the 2 driver seats, the buckets, and then like the rest of the van we just packed full of gear and merch, and then like tried our best to make beds on top of gear, you know.
On top of the gear.
And,
that's always the best.
On top of
it
the
works
gear. Yeah.
so poorly.
I had like a 610 cab. I didn't even have an 810, you know, like that would have been better, I think. But like I had a 610, and it was just the most uncomfortable tour, I think. I was going through such a rough time on that tour too. And then we were in just like this piece of crap van, sleeping on, you know, cabinets and whatnot. And I remember thinking like, is this worth it? But
yeah,
you get through it.
So as Kingdom of Giants was taking off, has there been a moment where like at some point on tour things started to change and you were like, oh, like I might actually pull this off as a career?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because the pandemic kind of put a little like small pause on that, you know. It was like we really only started getting that type of I'm not going to say success because it's really not success necessarily yet, but just people started giving us a chance in the last 2 years. And so like our manager Jason Majot at the time just had some good connections and started getting us some better tour offers. And then once you start kind of feeling the better tour offers a little bit, you're just like, okay. But at the same time, like it's tough because like we were kind of the oddball on all these tours, genre wise. We have a lot of singing and like cookie cutter formats in our compositions and stuff. And we're playing tours with As I Lay Dying, which is also kind of a commercial format, I guess, but just super metal, and then like we're just like down-tuned open string, like groove metal on an As I Lay Dying tour with lots of singing and stuff. And I feel like it did go over pretty well with their fans every night, but it's hard, it's hard to gauge the fans on all those tours. And if like you fit, it's just a weird, just like dynamic and vibe you feel out each tour or whatever. And then like being the heaviest band on the tour is always the coolest because you can be the oddball, but you're the heavy band. So like it makes all the sense in the world, but like, so Spite was on one of the Born of Osiris tours, and like they're super heavy, and it didn't matter who the fan was or not. Like when they see them play the show, it's just it got that amount of energy that anybody's going to be like, this is cool to see live, So yeah, it was interesting being that first band and being on a tour that size with As I Lay Dying. Like just we didn't even really get a nice ramp up. It was just kind of like, you're going from headliners yourself, here
you are, good luck.
You're the first band on As I Lay Dying headliner. Okay, here you go. And granted, like they were playing all independent venues. They chose that way, that first tour that they were coming back. They were trying to ease into things, I think, and Live Nation, I don't think would really book them at the time with Tim and his past. So the controversy, and everything. So it wasn't like giant, shows, but much, much bigger than what we were used to. I think Utah at the complex. It was like a 1,500 cap or something like that, and it was sold out. So it was just like, that feels like a sea of people, to somebody who's never been on a festival stage or to that size or anything. So yeah, it was crazy. And you just kind of hope that your music's cool enough to like translate to everybody, and then it really kind of starts making you think like, okay, how do I need to write a little differently next time then, like, because we're playing to like these big crowds where you want to get energy out of people, and it doesn't totally like crowd my mind that I'm thinking, oh, I have to write songs to fit live when I'm writing. It doesn't totally come up that way, but it does kind of like, I don't know, just shift a little gear in your head where you're taking a few things into consideration like that, where you're just like, oh, will this go over well with a 1,500 person crowd? Like, where,
by the way, I guarantee the new record will go over well
at all.
I guarantee the new
Thanks,
record
man.
will go over very, very well. I'm not worried
Thanks,
about
bro.
that at all.
Yeah. And that's what it kind of is weird with us getting a little pause in there. We dropped this album, so I was like getting pretty amped up to be on these tours, playing this new material and stuff, and hoping that it's gonna translate well, and that we kind of like get accepted into the circle, because we're still trying to prove ourselves to this new group of people now, so at least that's the way I see it. We're kind of just these newcomers, even though we've been around for over a fucking decade, but or they have as a band, as a brand, I guess. But so yeah, it was interesting, but and we haven't gotten to play any of these songs from Passenger except for one. We played at a headliner in January of 2020, right before everything shut down. Mm-hmm. And it was just one song. I'm trying to remember which song it was, honestly. I can't think of it right now, to be honest. But it's been that long.
That's nuts.
I couldn't tell you. But
the fact that we have to dig for dates to remember the last time we played shows is insane. Trying to remember the year, that's crazy.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can remember 2020 January. That was the last show we played for sure.
That's nuts.
But I can't remember what song off the album because we changed the names, and I don't want to get the name wrong. But from working titles to the real names, I'm still getting used to that because, like, yeah.
So on that As I Lay Dying tour, did everything go smoothly? Because on this show, one of the interesting sectors of stories that pops up a lot is for guys that are in larger bands now, when they're first getting those larger tours, and you don't really realize how it operates when you're actually working with half a stage and everybody else's gear is all preloaded and good to go, and there's all these extra circumstances that you're not used to while everybody's still filing into the venue. That's kind of become a topic on this show, how weird that can be for acts. Did everything run smoothly for you guys on that tour?
The As I Lay Dying tour, yeah, I mean, for the most part, everything ran pretty darn smooth. I because like their tour manager Sankis, this guy Brian Sankis, he just like was on top of everything like crazy, and like he was the most like just like involved tour manager I think I've ever seen. And it not even just down to his own band, he made sure all the other bands were like on the same page and like everybody had the same information. And I mean, aside just from like, I think we blew a PA in West Texas, and they had to fly a new line array on each side. Like,
oh wow,
this
like
stack
mid-show?
of line arrays they blew. Yeah, like not even mid-show.
Man.
Sorry, for their sound check, As They Dying sound check, they blew one of the sides of the line arrays, and they had to like rent a new one, or like, yeah, they must have rented it because those things are damn expensive. You can't just like buy a new one like right off the bat unless you're ready to go. But somebody brought in 2 new ones and they flew them into the ceiling before the show started. And that was just like this janky, like West Texas venue that was attached to this bar, like restaurant, but had a pretty nice sized room and like, you know, decent enough stage, maybe like 3-4 feet tall. Wasn't anything too crazy. So I don't feel too bad, I guess, about blowing their system. It was pretty old.
See, this needed to be fixed beforehand.
Yeah,
but
I mean, hey, you take on a show like that, it might happen. So
might consider it. Yeah. So leading up to before you got to that level with Kingdom of Giants, when you guys were doing some smaller level headlines, were you guys van owners all rolling around the country? What was the situation like for you guys before taking the step up? And were there any incidents or any wild stories from that era of Kingdom of Giants?
Yeah, I mean, we had this like really shitty Dodge van that just like you just had to like floor it to the floor, like no matter what, just to get it to go like 60 miles an hour. Like I don't know what was wrong with that thing, but that was like just, it was a 15 passenger, so it was roomy enough, you know, and it had all the benches and everything. We had a trailer, too big of a trailer with like hella wind drag behind it, so we got terrible gas mileage and stuff. But like it was just
tossing a brick on the
crazy
foot just to get the thing across.
Yeah, exactly. And you're just like moving so slow and so heavy, like this old heavy frame Dodge van. And like I just remember one of the nights that I was driving, everyone's asleep and it's just me, and like I like to like really fuck myself up at night on drives alone, and I listen to like Sword and Scale podcast, which is like this like CSI like murder investigation like podcast and stuff. And
so yeah,
it just like I don't know, I just on a long drive it just keeps me intrigued enough where I'm not falling asleep, so, and I'm like listening to this really screwed up podcast, and then like I'm got the pedal to the floor and it's like kind of misty out, and it's just kind of spooky, and like I see like these faint lights creeping up on us, and I'm going as fast as I can, and we're in like maybe Utah, I think, at this point on like I-80,
So this is the point where you start hearing like wolf howls in the background and like tumbleweeds going across, like
exactly, just like the clouds like disperse and the moon's like full and everything. No, it was just a weird, spooky drive, and then the podcast wasn't helping at all. And then like some mist behind me, and like these like semi truck headlights just come out of nowhere. And this dude's hauling, it's like 85 miles per hour speed limit, maybe 90 or something out there in Utah for these truckers. And we're from California, we're used to the 55 rule, so I don't really think twice about it. This is like the first tour we're out on, and like this truck is just like barreling down the highway and everyone's asleep, and I got my foot on the gas pedal all the way down, and like there's nothing I can do. This truck's just coming full speed at us, dude. And I don't remember if he even honked or anything, but I just like gripped the steering wheel hella tight and just like kind of squinted my fucking eyes, dude. And like the truck, like I was looking in the rear view on the right side, or the right side mirror, sorry, not the rear view. And he like didn't even get in the lane next to us to pass us. He must have not been paying attention at all either. And he jumps into like the dirt side, on the shoulder of the road, and is just like kicking up so much rocks and dirt and like dust, and he's like just right alongside of me, and I'm just like looking at this dude like, and he's just like driving in the dirt like holy shit. and both of us just had this
hammer
fucking
down,
holy shit moment, you know. And I'm just like, I just like didn't know what to do. I slowed down enough to where he just like passed me in the dirt, and then like got back on the road and just took off. And then like within minutes, you couldn't even see the truck anymore, you know. And it was just like, and the guys, I think a few of them woke up because I like jerked the wheel a little bit, you know. And I was just like,
and the podcast played quietly in the background.
Yeah, you know, and it just went back to the podcast and went back to work. No, but like, so before even playing a show, like I almost died, you know, like, and I hated that van.
See,
ever since that, I could not stand that van, dude. And I was just like, this van's got to go. So thankfully,
people don't realize
it broke down.
People don't realize band guys are so into podcasts because we have so much time on our hands for drives that it just helps. If you're just playing music every single 5-hour drive, that's 3-minute increments. You're going to drive yourself insane. So a 2-hour podcast format helps you a lot. But one time when we were driving, doing an overnight, and everybody had fallen asleep, I finally decided to turn on the crime podcast about a family member of mine that I had never listened to because I was too into it. Had a technically he's like an uncle-in-law, but was involved, who spent 20 years in prison for a double homicide in a church in the South. And there was it was crazy, but like one of the major crime podcasts like that did a full season on him, about how they thought he was innocent. So I finally, like in like an overnight drive one time just by myself, just decided to turn this on, and it messed with my head, man. Yeah, it was, dude, like I'm sitting here going like, I feel like I'm obliged to believe that he didn't do it, but also this is really, really difficult to hear. This makes a lot of sense that he did. I don't know what's happening. Like I just internally, while you're driving there in the middle of the night, like just the thought process is not rational, and it starts to get a little crazy.
Yeah.
But
I can't even imagine.
He actually got out 20 years later this year. So it's crazy. Because of the podcast,
innocence or anything, right?
Well, because of the podcast, the police department, it was in like North Carolina, reopened the case, and like because of it was found through interviews in the podcast, and he's a free man 20 years later. Dang, it's crazy, and they know who did it.
Dang.
Yeah, they know who did it, but that guy's dead now, so it's just kind of it's done.
That's what it is. That's nuts. Okay,
that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, it's one thing if he was totally guilty, but I mean, at this point, you know, he wasn't. So it's just like you're like, whoa.
Well, at the time though, at the time there, I'm sitting there like,
it's like watching,
and then you start to make stupid thoughts like,
you know,
yeah. And then you start having stupid thoughts like, well, that guy's close to me. Like, could I have done something like that? How stupid could I get?
Oh, dude.
And you really go down the rabbit hole.
I don't know. And I'm sure it's a lot of people when you're listening to those enough, you know, where you're just like, am I capable of some crazy shit like this? Like, could I turn into this?
What you know, I do in the moment?
This monster? Yeah, you know, like.
Especially driving down the highway. It's like, do I just take this a little bit this direction and kill us all?
It's like,
yeah. Hey, maybe that semi, maybe I cut him off on purpose, you know? No, I'm just kidding.
Pissed off a stage right guitarist right now. What if I just kind of yanked him out the back door? Like, what can we do?
Quick, stage right. You leave me alone.
No, that is funny.
I've one and done.
Yeah.
So all right. So
the rest of the band kind of hates me for those podcasts, so I try to keep them to a minimum now.
I think Sink in general hates me for my podcast because you guys aren't really long form podcast guys, but it's okay. I'll deal with it. It's fine. All right, I want to end this thing with what the heck do you guys do now that you put out your biggest record so far and you couldn't tour on it? What's the game plan?
Dang, man. Well, we had a lot of, different ideas that didn't really come to fruition necessarily. A lot of us just took advantage of being off the road and just kind of getting our personal lives back in order. One of us had a kid. Congrats, Max. He's a dad now. And one of us,
Max, congrats.
Made a huge move. Dana moved down to LA and started a whole new video career for himself and stuff. And so it was a good opportunity to just kind of each of us individually get, grow and get stuff figured out here at home. So, but other than that, we got drum playthrough videos in the works, things. There's actually like a music video that we filmed but never got made. So I think that's being talked about, being actually made and fully put out. I can't remember what song it's for, to be honest.
Oh man.
So you'll have to wait and find out. We shot it like the same time that we shot the Night Shift video. And I honestly, with the working titles, because I worked on the album in the studio, I was so used to the working titles that I need to like side by side them and be like, okay, that's right. This one was this one. This one was this one. I still haven't done that yet. That's how out of the band world that we've all been living in this last year as a band. But now, we just started writing a new album, dude. Honestly, we were just we're gonna be off the road for all of 2021 as well. So let's just get all of our demos, and a lot of us got inspired, So we just started going crazy, and we're trying to get as many demos made up as possible, and just have an album already ready to go by 2022,
Mm-hmm. Right on.
And yeah, So yeah, we're just taking this time to just chill with family and friends, get our personal lives in order, and then do a lot of writing. I've been doing a lot of writing for other people. I've been trying to get into the producing world again, but this time doing bands and rock and metal, where I feel like I fit a little bit more. And so it's been fun. It's been obviously a challenging year for a lot of people, and it's had its challenges for myself too, but it was kind of a mixed blessing for myself with just being able to stay off the road for 2 years to be able to kind of just be a part of home life again. You don't really get that opportunity in your band career unless you choose to, but if you choose to, you lose a lot of ground, or if you go on a long enough hiatus, people kind of lose interest, or just so, especially when you're at the stage that we are and that we were before the pandemic. We're climbing, we're still trying to make a bigger splash, and there's a whole lot of people before Passenger came out and stuff. From our last record, All the Hell You Got to Spare, we had 2 singles, Cash Out and Damaged Goods, and those made it onto some pretty legit Spotify playlists and stuff. And so a lot of people got to hear those songs, which is awesome. Some of our highest play counts on Spotify are those 2 songs. But we'd have people at the shows coming up to us after at the merch table saying that they didn't know that we were the band that performed that song, and that they had to figure it out during our set because they thought we were playing covers, we were just no, that's our originals and everything. They're like, okay. They're like, your songs come on in my, when I'm in the gym every day, but I just didn't know that was you guys, so it's just a lot of
How does that still happen? Google exists.
It's the new thing with Spotify and Apple Music, I think, and a lot of people aren't with those playlists, and in the gym and stuff, they'll just add a song so quickly to their playlist and not even think twice about it, and it's totally not how it was in the days of old with like CD covers where you could open up the booklet and like see a promo and like try to figure out which band member was who, or
Man, that drives me nuts.
It's just so
it drives me insane. Hey, person listening, if that's you, Shazam is in your phone. It's in there.
Or if you're
ready.
Just look at it.
He's not wrong.
Look at it.
Yeah.
Look at it. Although I guess admittedly since Spotify has added Canvas, like they so much of your screen that sometimes I don't even really know what's going on other than the artwork.
Okay.
So I guess that's fair. But unless you're me, please just look at your phone. Shazam.
This is the only time we'll tell you to do that.
It's hard enough. Yeah, it's hard enough for us to get your 1/8 of a penny after you stream the song. Just see who's making it. See what happens.
Yeah, if you go to shows, regularly, or,
you should probably be aware.
like I don't know. Some people are smart and like will actually take the time to check out opening bands on tour packages. I've talked to a few people at the tours who are like, "Oh yeah, I checked you guys out before I showed up," and I was just like, "See, that's pretty smart," because at least what you're getting yourself into. You can decide if you want to show up a little bit later if you totally think the first act sucks,
Right.
Dude, when I was in high school, I used to do like a full scouting report of the big tours. Like this is what I like, this is what I don't like, so this is what I want to be aware of when it happens. Like I was prepared, sick. Man. That was my moment.
Okay.
Or like you didn't want to show up to your local show and be like, oh yeah, this opener is probably like some nice little pop punk band, and you get there and they're just all throwing hands in the pit.
Yeah, right. I need to wear my proper pads.
And there's totally certain people that go to certain venues, and certain crowds that'll show up to certain venues. And I miss it, man. Can't wait for it to come back. It's been 2 years. Oh, it's going on 2 years now. And I think my break's been good, but I'm ready to get off break.
It's been long enough, huh?
It's been long, I think, at this point. But
dude, well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for jumping on this podcast, man. Before we go, tell the people where they can find you and where they can find the band, a little bit about the record and all that good stuff.
Yeah, guys, thanks for listening to me ramble. Thanks for having me on. You can find us on Spotify, Kingdom of Giants, Facebook, YouTube. You can go to like Ashtone Records YouTube channel and find our music videos. Just a Google search, everything will pop up pretty quick. But definitely listen to us on Spotify. That's the easiest, I think, route for everybody.
Dude, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
Thank you guys so much for listening. You now know that Sink In is part of Crime Scene Investigation podcasts. And Cabretti's out of his liquid death, which means that we need an endorsement.
Please. I'm very thirsty.
Liquid death. Thirsty boys trying to get healthy. We need our water.
So Ty, where can they find us?
At Tour Stories Pod on Twitter and Instagram. At Sink In Band, literally everywhere. Again, like and subscribe. Subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. If it's on YouTube, go ahead and give the channel a follow. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Let us know who you want to have on the podcast. We still got time until the end of season 1. I want to know who you want to hear from. We might do an episode where we have a guest or two come in and like help with the interview. That might be a cool idea.
Yeah.
It might be a terrible idea. I don't know. We'll see.
That's what this podcast is all about, is our disasters. So thank you guys for tuning in.
We are a disaster. Thank you so much for listening to our disaster. This is Tour Stories Disasters.